Today we're going to talk about what I think is possibly the most moving and emotive item I've ever had in the department. And here at the Coins, Medals and Militaria department in Lawrence's, we've had an awful variety of things over the years. You name it, it comes in. But this item really made me stop and think about war more than almost any other I've had. It's a very simple chair frame. When I collected it from the family, with quite a collection of items from the Burma campaign, they said, don't forget the chair, the chair's important. And I looked at it, I thought, okay, sure. But I wasn't honestly particularly taken to start with, as I'm sure you're not at first sight either. But Burma, what do we know about Burma? It's one of the stars we're used to, the Second World War stars, the Burma star there. The Forgotten War, it's sometimes called, because it's a little less well known than some of the others. But hard fighting and some pretty tough tales of people who were captured and taken prisoner. And this chair goes back to the fall of Singapore and to a family who were out there at the time. And I'll just read the story that comes with it. It relates to a lady who was the last owner's Aunt Gert. And it starts, Aunt Gert and her husband were in Singapore during the war as military observers. When the Japanese conquered Singapore, all civilians and military were rounded up and put into guarded work. Aunt Gert had the job of repairing the canvas covers for jeeps and army lorries. With any offcuts, she then made the canvas seats and backs of the field officers' chairs. And that's exactly what this would have had. It would have had a seat across here, a back across here, and that's how it would have been used. Aunt Gert was given a quota every day to complete, and if the quota wasn't met, she was whipped or given quite severe punishments. So pretty brutal and not great. The writer goes on, I'm not sure how long she was in the camp until the Americans freed them all, but by this time, Gert was a physical and mental wreck, as were all the other prisoners. She had one chair to finish that day and would not be parted from it in case the Japs came back. She even took the chair to the hospital with her, where she recovered. And when she came back to the UK, she wouldn't be parted from it. She held on to it because she was terrified of what would go wrong if she lost it or didn't have it with her. To be that badly damaged by the effects of her captivity are really quite moving. When you think of 50,000 Allied prisoners, we don't often think of the non-combatants. We always think of the men that are doing the fighting, the brave men getting shot at and doing the shooting. That's the war we tend to read about. But just a civilian out there, an observer, was put into Changi, which was an area, not a specific building, into the prisons there, and that was her job. And she was so traumatized when she was picked up that, she must have been weak and frail, but she held on to the chair and held on to it for the rest of her life. And if that doesn't speak to you of the horrors of war and the impact on civilians and the population, then I don't think anything really will. Aunt Gert, she was one of the lucky ones. She survived. She probably didn't feel like one of the lucky ones. She had a rotten time, but she survived, went on to live many, many more years, and never forgot the experience of her time in prison.